Hello everybody, time for another bass review. Today we're going to be taking a look at my Alien Audio Constellation made by a local luthier named Chopper Anderson. Let's get started. So here it is, my Alien Audio Constellation built by the great Chopper Anderson, who's a really good bass player himself and a great dude. So I met Chopper years ago. He was playing a gig at a little local spot around here, and I noticed the bass he was playing was not something that I had ever seen before, and I went up and talked to him and he let me play it, and it was fantastic. And he told me that he built it, and I thought maybe he built it out of parts, but he had not. He had literally built it from blocks of wood. He's a very gifted luthier. So I always wanted one, and over the years I've been at other events and NAMM shows and things like that, and I've run into Chopper and I've played Alien Audio basses, and they are just always fantastic. Another thing that dovetails into this story, and I'll roll in maybe either right at this spot, or I'll roll it in at the end of the clip, a picture of me with a guy named Howard Olyate. And Howard is also a great bass player, but he makes fantastic pickups. And these are Olyate Tic Tac pickups. And you notice the double P configuration with the standard P and the reverse P, and it sounds marvelous. Why this pickup configuration isn't used more often, I don't know. It has a really good sound when you balance the two, and we'll hear that in a little bit. But it also sounds like a P bass when you just solo the neck pickup. But anyway, back to Alien Audio. So I had a Music Man Stingray Special that I got for cheap, and it was in pristine condition, and it was perfect, and it was a great bass. But I just never found a tone that I liked out of it. It just wasn't, if I used the bridge pickup, it was just a little too thin and honky sounding. And if I used the neck pickup, it was too muddy. And if I used both of them in combination, it just seemed like it was, just wasn't a good thing for me. I just didn't get along with the tone of the bass in my setup and the way I play. So I saw this bass on Talkbass in the classified, and the guy was looking for a 5-string that wasn't a P bass. Well, hey, and I had one. So I ended up trading for this with a guy in the Toronto area in Canada. And because it had to go across international borders, this thing took about a month to get, and I thought it was lost. I didn't think it was ever going to show up. But before I go to the other camera and play, I want to just talk a little bit about the features of this bass, which make it unique. First of all, this is a Mo West preamp, and it's probably one of the most musical preamps I've ever used. I would say that the preamp on the Music Man really comes close, because most preamps, and this bass, which we're going to talk about, these are my last two we're going to review, and both of them have John East preamps, which I think are one of the absolute best preamps on the planet. But this guy is really good. So unlike other basses, this is the volume control. And it's out of the way because Chopper's reasoning, because he's a player, is I never turn my volume control off or adjust it while I'm playing. But I do adjust my tone control frequently from song to song. So this is tone control, this is volume, this is pickup balance, and then you've got your bass, mid, and treble controls. And those bass, mid, and treble controls are extremely musical. Some EQs, if you turn them all the way up, they're just ridiculous. You'd never use it on that setting. These, you can turn the control all the way up, and it's actually still very musical. The other really cool thing is, if you pull this knob, it's not an active passive switch. Pull the volume knob and you get an overdrive that's built in. It's a little aggressive for me, but if you're playing, really aggressive music, it's perfect. And I have overdrive as an effect in my rig, so I don't really use this much. This is if you pull that, it opens up the frequency range. So it expands, particularly the top end. Chopper says it expands the low end as well. I haven't seen that to be the case. Even with the thing pressed in, the low B is fantastic, and I never pull it. I can't tell a difference because I run a high and low pass filter on my rig. So that high and low pass filter is negating anything that control would be doing. So, but if you take that off, you can't hear a difference. And unfortunately, it's a global EQ setting on my HX Stomp. So even when, you know, I go through the HX Stomp with no processing, you're still getting that high pass and low pass filter, which to me, I almost think a lot of people run a cab sim to do that kind of stuff, but I just like the predictability of a high pass and low pass filter over the cab sim stuff. But as you can see, this is a, you know, I think it's probably, if I had to guess what wood that is, I honestly, maybe swamp ash, torque pick guard, rosewood fingerboard, and it's got cool little markers. I've never seen markers like that are offset where the 12 has a 2 and a 1. Just kind of strange. I love the headstock on this guy, and Chopper's little, I don't know if those will show up on camera very well, but his little alien symbols on here and his little alien hand. The base is not super lightweight, but it's not super heavy. But because it's got the, you know, the hip shot, lightweight tuners, there's no neck dive. The neck is really great, a really nice natural feel to it. 4-bolt neck. And then you get down here to this monstrosity. And if you have ever watched any of my other videos, you know that I love bridges. I love high mass, you know, weird bridges. This one takes the cake. I don't understand. There's definitely snake oil involved in this, and we've talked about some snake oil, but you can see through that bridge. There is a massive hole that has to be cut in the base body to accommodate this bridge. So it has this giant plate on the back, and then it goes all the way, sorry for the weird camera shot, I had to flip the base on. It goes all the way to the front. And each one of these saddles is individual. It's not touching. The saddles don't touch except for at the plate on the bottom. Now, the snake oil behind this, according to 2Tech, is that each bridge being individual means there's no crosstalk among strings. So even if you're muting a string down here on the neck when you're playing or with your thumb or whatever, down there on, you know, with your right hand, that means still this saddle vibrating could vibrate this saddle and therefore be picked up by these pickups, and you get crosstalk. Okay, great. Monorail bridges are supposed to do the same thing. But then you've got high mass bridges like this that want to try to lock everything together. You've got a bridge like this, which we're going to talk about in another review, which is a KSM bridge, and it actually has a wedge on it that pushes the saddles together, because they claim that if a bridge is one solid piece, it sounds better. Then you've got the G&L over here, which we've already reviewed, and it's got the saddle lock screw that pushes all of the saddles together. So who's right? Is G&L right? Is 2Tech right? Is KSM right? Guys, I think it's all snake oil. I think it's all snake oil, and I don't think anybody could absolutely tell a difference. But this bridge looks cool. I don't like the fact that there's a giant hole in the base, and if I ever wanted to replace it with another bridge, no, I can't. If 2Tech ever goes out of business and this bridge breaks, yeah, I guess I'm calling Chopper and having him make me a new body, because, you know, there won't be any way to replace that bridge with another bridge, because literally there's it's a huge hole. So that is that. So enough talking. Let's see how this thing sounds. All right, new camera, new mic, different look, different sound. Let's do a little playthrough on some stuff. So first and foremost, and I've said this in other videos, my string of choice, and I'm not associated with them or anything. I don't get free product. I pay for all of my strings. But I love String Joy strings. They're made here in Nashville, Tennessee. The bass is made here in Nashville, Tennessee. The pickups are made here in Nashville, Tennessee by a gentleman named Howard Olyate. These are his Tic Tac pickups because the magnets look like Tic Tacs. And I took a class a little while back with Jeff Berlin, and Roy Vogt was in the class, if you know any of those famous bass players. And that's where I met Howard, and he was just a nice guy, and he makes great pickups. So I'm happy to have, and I didn't put these in. These Chopper Anderson builds his basses, a lot of them with Oldgate pickups, and more manufacturers are doing the same. So let's start out right now. I keep it bumped a little toward the bridge pickup off center. So like here's the center detent right here. It's on center, and I probably rotate it that much to the front. And here's the difference in sound. So here's dead in the middle. So it sounds nice and smooth. You don't hear a lot of that growl or anything that you would normally get from a P bass. But if you just bring it off center, and this is all I'm moving it. So I'm here, and I'm going to go to there. That's it. Maybe an eighth of a turn. Now you can hear more of that growl. And it just goes from there. So if you go all the way to the neck pickup, she's a P bass. So I think that's cool, because I love, by itself, the sound of a P bass I don't care for. I don't care for that mid-rangey, growly tone. If I'm playing rock or something, great. But for some reason, those mids help your tone cut through. And I hate that term, cut through the mix, because if you want to cut through the mix, just have the engineer turn you up. But there is something about, I hate the term cutting through the mix. I prefer to use the term sit in the mix. A P bass sits in the mix so well. You can just put this thing all the way on P mode, and it sounds great. You could go all the way to the bridge mode, and you would think that this is not going to sound right because you've got a P pickup in the bridge position, but it's not. It doesn't sound like a P pickup at all. It's a reversed pickup, a reversed P, but it's not super thin. And here's where this EQ comes in. You know, you can bump in a little low end, which is fantastic. So let's put it back to my preferred position, just a little off center, and let you hear. So that's where it's at now. Let's hear this overdrive. So I'm just going to pull out on this guy. So like most overdrives, it distorts the top end and the bottom is gone. But here again, you've got your EQ, so I can add in a little bass. And that's probably with the bass turned about halfway up. So it's super usable. And that's a great overdriven tone. And it's built in right on the bass. There's nothing else to it. The tone control is just a tone control. It acts just like you would expect. So there we are, back to my preferred setting, just a little bit off of the center detent. And then I can roll that tone control. Here it is all the way off. Tone control. It works just like any other tone control. It's great. And I'll show you, I don't know, I can't hear the difference, but here is the, what they call, right now it's in the more vintage mode. And then if I pull this tone knob out, I don't hear a difference. But then again, that's because I have high pass and low pass filters engaged. So let's just hear it. Let me turn my mics off and let you just hear the sound of the bass. And we will then turn off all the processing and go with another sound sample. Well, I can't think today. All right, so that's what it sounds like. Run through the SVT patch. Now let's go to straight out, No emulation, no anything, no effects. All right, so that is the unaffected sound. Great bass. I really love this thing. This is, in my opinion, one of the most versatile basses that I've ever owned. We've only got 2 more basses to review after this one. This one is one of my pride and joys. I have another bass that has an amazingly long story, and that video may run longer than 15 minutes, but we're not there yet. But anyway, this is the Alien Audio Constellation. So thank you guys for watching.